And now we're going to move on to long division. This is actually pretty cool. It's a snap, and the way that they approach it in your Beast Academy book is pretty interesting, and it's very easy to do. Let's talk about some very, very basic stuff. Division 101 is basically as basic as you can get. All right, for the star of our show, we're going to go with what I like to call the little house, and that would be that symbol in blue. I'll use the example they give you at the top of your handout, and we would read this as 73 divided by 6. Well, that's not really the only division symbol you've seen before. You're used to maybe this symbol up here at the right of your screen. This symbol you haven't seen perhaps too much. This slash also means division, means to divide. And then fractions, we haven't covered too much work on fractions, but that's coming. This fraction bar, that line separating your 1 and your 2, we would read this as 1/2, which is also the same thing as 1 divided by 2. So here are 3 other ways that we can show division. But we're going to focus on our little blue house for now. All right, so we know that the blue house means division, and it could be any color. I just chose blue. What are all these other numbers? Well, the number that goes inside the house is called your dividend. Dividend. This is the number that we need to break apart into equal chunks. How many equal chunks? Oh, 6 equal chunks to be exact. So, this 6 on the outside, or the number on the outside of the house, think of this little guy shivering in the cold while our dividend inside is nice and warm. Well, the guy outside in the cold, that's our divisor. Divisor. And at the top, when we have our answer, the answer that you get when you divide is called a quotient. Our quotient will go right at the top of the house. And he's actually also nice and warm, right? Top of the house has a nice little chimney. So the only guy who's really out in the cold is your divisor. Brrr. Okay, so let's get back to our long division problem. 73 divided by 6. Essentially, you're trying to answer this basic question: how many groups of 6 can I make? Well, let's take a look. How close can we get to 73, right? How many times does 6 go into 73? Here's a really good hint that you also would have read about in your guidebook. How about we multiply our divisor by 10? Okay, well, 6 times 10 is 60. What do we do with that number? Well, there's actually 2 things we want to take from here. We're going to take our 10, which is going to go up on top of the house. That's our quotient, right? 6 times 10 equals 60 is the same as 60 divided by 6. 60 divided by 6 is 10. So that 10 is actually our quotient, even though I've written this as a multiplication problem here to the right. So the 10 goes here, but what do? If I make 6 groups of 10, 6 times 10, I have to do something with that. Well, turns out we subtract the 60 inside the house. We start tunneling down. So now we've got this, we're subtracting 60. I've already pulled out 6 groups of 10. I'll subtract that 60 from the 73 I had to start with. And what do we have? 73 minus 60 is simply 13. That's a pretty big number. That's our remainder. Here's what I have left after making those 6 groups of 10. Is our remainder bigger than our divisor? It sure is. Our divisor is only 6. Well, since I have a bigger remainder than my divisor, basically I have enough left over to make at least 1, 2, 3, who knows how many more groups of 6, how many groups of 6 I can make. So I'll keep dividing here. Divide your too big remainder, that remainder that's too big, just divide it by your divisor. How many times can 6 go into 13? Turns out 6 can go into 13 2 times exactly. 6 times 2 is 12. Well, we take the 2 and we also add that to the top of our house. That's also going to go in there with us. That's the other part of our quotient here. And what do we do with that information? Well, if I pulled 2 groups of 6 out of 13, 6 times 2 is 12. I subtract the 12, and it turns out that I'm left with only 1. And I cannot make another group of 6 with only 1. So let's check. Our final remainder should be less than our divisor. 1 is less than 6. So we're done here. Our quotient is 12. Our 10 plus our 2, which is 12. And our remainder is 1. So as you go through your handout, make sure that whatever you have on top of the house, that's your quotient. Make sure you add those two numbers together if it turns out that you had more than one thing on top of the house. Now there's something really funny about remainders. I just said this. Think to yourself, why can't a remainder be larger than the divisor? Take a moment and think about this. Well, let's consider the following example. I have 35 gumballs, and I like you. I want to share them with you. So if I have 35 gumballs and there's only 2 of us, well, that looks like this. 35 divided by 2. Remember, the number inside is the number that we want to break up into chunks. So 35 divided by 2 looks like this example here on the right. And I want you to try this now using long division. Go ahead, take out a scrap of paper, and try to do this example on your own. Don't forget to pause the video. Welcome back. Let's see how you did. Well, if I have 35 gumballs and I'm going to divide them into 2 equal groups, and we're going to try to be as fair as possible, I want you and I to have the same exact number of gumballs. Well, remember before that hint about multiplying by 10? That's really the easiest way to go. How many times can 2 go into 35? How about 2 times 10? 2 times 10, we know that's 20. So I know 2 can go into 35 at least 10 times. I subtract the 20 once I have 2 groups, 10 for you, 10 for me. That's 20 gumballs I've now taken out of my gumball jar. But there's 15 left. So hopefully this makes sense now. Remember, I asked you to think about why is it that a remainder, why can't it be larger than the divisor? Well, there's 2 of us and there's 15 gumballs left. That's our remainder, 15. If there are 15 left, can't we divide them some more? Can't you and I each have more? Or maybe you don't want any more gumballs and I'd be happy to take the other 15. But chances are you want as many gumballs as I do. So if we have 15 left and there's 2 of us, well, that means that we could still divide the remaining 15 up amongst the 2 of us here. So let's do that. 15 is bigger than our divisor. Like I said, our divisor is 2. So we'll keep dividing. And you might have already seen that 2 can go into 15 7 times. 2 times 7 is 14. I add my 7 up on top of the house, right? That's part of my quotient. 14 divided by 2 is 7. So again, even though these problems at the right are written as multiplication problems, just the opposite of division. So I know that I can add 7 to the quotient because I can make 2 more groups of 7. I do that. That takes 14 out of that pile of 15 that we had, and now there's only 1 left. And sure, we could break this into a half for you, a half for me, but at this point, we're not really doing that. We're leaving the remainder as a whole number. Our remainder is smaller than our divisor. There's only 1 left, and there's 2 of us, so neither one of us can have 1 whole gumball to ourselves. It's just not enough. There's only 1. We're done. Our quotient is now 10 plus 7. Those 2 numbers on top of the house, we add them up. Our quotient is equal to 17, and we have a remainder of 1. Feel free to rewind the video, take another look at this, and also make sure you read and reread the example at the top of your long division handout. Have fun!